Now we're to module 2 on how we feel pain. There are 5 categories on how we feel pain. And if you get the wrong category, you will be treating a symptom. And this is really, really important to understand because if you, again, get the wrong category, you're just treating a symptom, you'll be very frustrated, which leads you down to more procedures and more problems because someone has not put you in the correct category. Now, you can be in multiple categories. We've seen this before. I'll give you some examples because, honestly, when you've had pain for a really long time, there can be other categories that are presenting that need to be addressed because it's been going on for a really long time. So let's talk about what those are. So these are the 5 categories on how we feel pain. The first one is thermal. We're going to take that one kind of off the table because that's like burns and sunburns. And then we have mechanical. That's kind of how we move, how the musculoskeletal system works together. And again, it's kind of like how I talk about we have to see what the phases of treatment, we have to see what your mobility looks like first, how the thoracic spine moves, how does the back move, how do the hips move? They all can create pain in the back. And those are the mechanics. And then once we get everything moving, then we've got to look at where the weakness is because you've been compensating. If you can't move in one direction, then you've been compensating. And so things can get weak. And we've got to look at that. And then we've got to look at the movement habits and patterns that you've created to get all that. Those are the mechanics of how things work. And then you have chemical pain. Chemical pain is like you have an injury and you have the chemicals that come in to create some pain that creates pain. It's that throbbing, aching, constant pain. Chemicals can treat chemicals. This is where the drugs can come into play. This is where the injections can come into play. But you can have pain that's mechanical that happens all the time, where you have the pain every minute of the day, but it's more mechanical that creates that constant pain as well. So you've got to figure out which condition you have, and we're going to get into that here in a little bit more. Autoimmune conditions. Autoimmune conditions can create numbness, pain, that can happen, and because it's the offshoot, it's your autoimmune system's revved up, creating offshoots and random pains. We're going to talk about what that looks like here in a second. And then emotional pain. People don't realize that that you can have pain from emotional things that have happened that are chronic, and so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So let's go into the categories again. The first one's thermal, burns and sunburns. This is, we're going to take it off the plate. We pretty much know when we have a burn or a sunburn. But it is how we feel pain. Chemical pain. So chemical pain is inflammation that's happened in the area. It's constant throbbing pain. So I'm going to give you an example of something that is constant throbbing pain. Again, you have to get to why are the chemicals there? Otherwise, you're just treating a symptom. So you can't have an injury that you fell and it's super irritated and you have that constant throbbing, aching pain. Well, that it happened because of the fall. So we've got to get you through that inflammatory phase so that we can actually get back to you moving correctly and helping the tissues be able to strengthen those tissues when there might be some damage that's around it, but do it in a gradual way. So that's like an example of, yep, there's chemicals that have happened, but we still want to make sure that we address the mechanics as well. But we might need to, if it's constant aching, take some chemicals, some drugs, anti-inflammatories, pain pills, those kind of things, injections, in order to get to the point where it can calm things down to where we can address the mechanics. So another example of a chemical pain would be like, think of like a kidney infection. You have a kidney infection, it's creating pain in your back, it's throbbing, aching. You can't change your position to make it better or worse. It's just always there. And so again, that's chemicals that are happening, and you can take chemicals to reduce that pain, but you've got to go get to the source of, okay, it's the kidney infection that's the problem. We need to address that infection so that takes away the pain, that takes away the chemicals that are happening. So we have to again get to the why and understand the why. Otherwise, you're just going to be treating a symptom. So that gives you some examples of chemical pain. Chemical pain does not come and go. And so we're going to get into this a little bit later. Chemical pain is always there. You can't change your position. You can't make it better. You can't make it worse. That's how chemical pain works. Mechanical pain is different. Mechanical pain is how we move or don't move that is creating some of our problems. It can be, you can have, again, parts of the thoracic spine not moving, parts of the back that's not moving correctly, parts of the hip that's not moving correctly. We can have weakness. We can have tightness. We can have so many different things that are how the body works from musculoskeletal position that can create pain. And mechanical pain can be constant or it can be intermittent. It can be pain that can kind of come and go. If I sit in this position for too long, my pain will happen. I'm super stiff when I get up. These are things that you'll kind of see, but as I start moving, you start feeling a lot better. I mean, those are the mechanical pain type things. If movement makes it feel better, then we know that this is awesome. These are, common things that happen with mechanics. Now, autoimmune is different, and autoimmune can present as as some mechanical pain. But what happens is we might improve some of the mechanics, but the pain is still there. There's no patterns at all. Like it's just random. We can't change those symptoms no matter what we do. We can improve the mechanics, but the pain is still there. The immune system is elevated, and what happens is it just creates random offshoots and symptoms. So typically what I start asking clients when, man, their objective measures, their movement has gotten better, their everything is moving, that their strength looks really good, but they're still getting these random symptoms. I start asking questions like, do you have issues in your gut? Are you noticing that you're bloated? Are you, really fatigued? Low energy levels? Are you noticing some of these things? Are you noticing, what does your poop look like? Are you constipated? These are all things that are very common with autoimmune type conditions. They're things that happen within the gut. We've got to get the gut better. That's what's going to help resolve some of those symptoms. And we have fantastic places that we send people to really help improve their immune system and their gut balance, because 75% of our immune system is actually in our gut. And if we don't fix that piece of it, then you're in the wrong category if you're treating some of these with mechanics. And it's really an autoimmune type condition. So that's why it's really important to understand which category you are in. So emotional pieces of it. So this is another piece that happens as well, because something could have happened where you hurt yourself, and it's something that completely has changed your life. And you haven't been able to find anyone that's been able to help you, but it started with something that really like triggers you emotionally. So this is a chronic stress type situation. These are the emotions that are creating your pain. And commonly what we find is they'll come in and they'll be like, I can do this now. Like for instance, we had a client that was getting a lot of knee pain, and we opened up her hip, was giving her a lot of problems. And so we got that moving, and we got her to the point where she was stepping up on a step, no problems, no pain. Her strength looked fantastic, but she'd come in and she'd be like, man, my knee pain all started all over again. And my hip pain started all over again. We're like, interesting. Tell me what's going on. When did it happen? Well, it starts happening when I'm at work. And I'm like, oh, really? Can you tell me a little bit more about what's going on with work? Oh, yes. We've, don't have enough staff, and we have this huge project that needs to happen, and I am super stressed. I'm like, interesting. Okay, so let's start talking about through some of these things. These are common things that you'll see. We've had people that have back pain, and they don't have back pain on the weekends, but it happens when they go in the morning, they go to work, and you're like asking them what's going on with work, and you start finding out that, oh gosh, there's some stuff there that we need to address. Another common thing that we find with emotional pain is that they'll say things like, when I'm on vacation, I feel fantastic. I didn't have any pain. I felt amazing. But as soon as I came back home, boom, all my pain returned. Again, it's the emotional piece of it. It's what's happening in your everyday life. And when you get away from that in a completely different environment, all of a sudden you don't have that emotional piece to it. There's something happening in your life at that time at home that's creating some of those issues, and we've got to address that. Otherwise your pain won't get better. We've had clients that had back pain before, and it was so chronic. They'd had multiple surgeries, and it all happened from an accident and that he should have never been lifting that way to begin with, but had back pain and then went to all these different doctors and had surgery. And literally, I was like, you have a huge emotional component. You need to deal with this, like when this started, and work through all of that. And he finally did. We got him to a person, and he worked through all of this, and his pain went away. And once when his pain went away, everything was moving so much better. Like we were managing his pain, but we weren't going to be able to solve it until he fixed that emotional piece to it, that he had to get addressed somewhere else. So these are the 5 categories of pain. There's a document that you'll have in your sheet that will also go through all these 5 categories. So I want you to sit down after this and kind of go through some of this and think about some of the things that I talked about and which category you might be in. So these are great questions I love to ask, because one of the biggest things that I see in the medical system is they want to give you drugs and they want to give you an injections, but you're like, this didn't work. It didn't help. And it gets very frustrating, and it gets also very expensive. We've had people that have had back injections, $3,000 back injections so they can go run a marathon, but yet it didn't work. Like they had the pain during their marathon. It didn't address the mechanics of what was going on. And they were also told that, physical therapy never would help them at all. And they came in, and 6 weeks later, they're feeling amazing. And it's because they never got their mechanics addressed. They only were given pain management. They only were given injections as their solution. And they were getting very frustrated with them not feeling better. So here are the questions that you can ask yourself to determine if injections will help or medications will help or not. So the big one is, remember, chemical pain is constant. You can't change your position to make it better or worse. And chemicals can treat chemicals. So when we have people that are like that, we're okay with them going and getting an injection, because it actually can help them. We're not against it, but it's given out way too many times. And a lot of times they are very expensive when you start getting these injections, thousands of dollars. And so if we can save you some money on something like this, where you can spend it on a place that's actually going to be able to help you, then that's a win. Like that's amazing. Most people, when they come to our place to get physical therapy, they spend almost as well, actually, they spend way less money on coming in and seeing us for us to kind of help them navigate their pain than they do on injections and MRIs, which we'll talk about MRIs a little bit later. So, can you change your position to make your symptoms better or worse? So you may have constant pain, but you can get in a position and, this makes it feel better. Or if I do this, this makes it feel worse. Those are mechanics. That's going to basically tell you that you have mechanical pain. The chemicals probably aren't going to do much. They may take the edge off of it, but they're not going to give you much relief. Another question: does your pain come and go? If it comes and goes, they're not chemicals. It's not oh, my pain's here and then it's gone. And it's inflammation that just comes and goes. That's not the case. That's not how it works. So if your pain can come and go, or there's times when you have no pain, these are mechanics. You've got to address the mechanical pain. You're in that category. Can you turn your pain on and off? Same kind of thing. I can turn my pain on when I do this, or I can turn it off when I do this. These are the positions that make me feel better. These are the positions that make me feel worse. These are all mechanics and how your body moves. So once when you kind of understand which category you are in, then we can definitely address that. You can get to the source of the problem. And that's the biggest thing. You can be in a couple of categories. You can have chemical pain and mechanical pain. You address the chemicals, so then we can go in and help with the mechanics. You can have mechanical pain and also have some emotional pain, but a lot of times we can take care of the mechanics, but the emotional pain will keep the mechanics being a problem. So again, you've got to figure out which category you are in. So after listening to this, I want you to sit down, kind of go through your questions that you kind of answered yourself, and kind of figure out which category you potentially are in.